All right, you're good, Anna? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to declare the meeting open at 5:39. As this is the first meeting of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee following the elections, I will open the meeting and preside initially. Also, because the presiding member, Gay McMath, is attending virtually and the deputy presiding member is currently not here, I'll proceed in accordance with section 5.14B of the Local Government Act. I'm putting forward a recommendation that the committee appoints Councillor Dave Acker to be the presiding member at this meeting in accordance with section 5.14. Could I have someone move that, please? Councillor Sargent.
I'm happy to second.
Seconded, Gay McMath. All in favour?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, carried. So I'll now hand over to Councillor Acker to chair the meeting. Thank you all.
We don't need to stand, do we? Okay, the Audit and Risk Committee meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with the city's live streaming and recording council meetings policy. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the city recording and live streaming their image and/or voice. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here. And before commencing the proceedings, I would like to acknowledge that we come together tonight on the traditional land of the Noongar people, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Okay, apologies. I think we have the Mayor, Peter Feasey. Leave of absence that was previously approved is Deputy Mayor Barry Winmar, but Barry is online. So we could have a quorum tonight. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so no public questions, no petitions, presentations, or deputations. No. Any declarations of interest?
No.
No declarations of interest. We got confirmation of the minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 22nd of September 2025 be confirmed as true and correct, as a true and correct recording of the meeting. Can I have anybody move that, please?
Happy to move, Chair.
Deputy Bear Winmarm as the mover.
Happy
Can I have
to
a seconder?
second. Happy to second, Chair.
Gay McMath, a second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 8, reports.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Since we have the auditors here, could I propose that we deal with the annual report now?
Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, we just need to vote to deal with that one.
Just to be sure if you want it. I don't think you do.
No, you don't, no,
Do we not need to vote on it?
no.
So we can bring it forward? What was that item?
So it's a
The late item. We're going to bring the late item forward because we have members from the OAG here in attendance. I don't need to read this one.
No, so I think before we do the, Mr. Chair, before we do the recommendation, we'll have a presentation discussion with the auditors. Have you got that down as in? Oh, okay, yeah, you just have to move it because it's down as a late item. So
Yep.
just,
Okay, so it's Section 9.1, item 9.1, that the committee accept item 9.2, adoption of the annual report, including the full set of audited financial statements for the year ending 30 June 2025 as a late item. Can I have somebody move that way?
Oh, I'll move.
Councillor Sargent has moved it. Can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we want to have a presentation.
Yeah, so Venetia, you okay for the auditors just to give a report on the audit?
Through the chair, that should be fine.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for meeting with us today. My name, just as an introduction, Vignesh from the Office of the Auditor General. I'm the engagement leader for City of Queen Anne, and pretty much the quality and the standards will be monitored by myself. And joined with me today is Yusen, who was the audit manager and conducting majority of the field work on site, together with Venetia's team. We appreciate the opportunity to present the results of our audit. Our audit team has completed the audit work and subject to the resolution of the outstanding matters, which is listed in the report. We intend to recommend to the Auditor General that an unqualified audit opinion be issued on the financial statements. This includes an emphasis of matter paragraph relating to the restatement of comparative balances and disclosures. On the 26th of September 2025, we received the certified statements by the CEO, and it was provided in a good shape and form, and it was audit-ready condition, which supported an efficient audit process. We'd like to extend our sincere thanks to the city staff for their cooperation, their responsiveness, and professionalism throughout the audit process. Although there were some challenging areas, the city staff really managed the situation very well. Their assistance has contributed greatly to the timely completion of the audit. In this report, which was forwarded to you, I think, on Tuesday, it has a number of areas, but we won't be going them in thoroughly, but feel free to stop us and ask us any questions at any time. What we'll be discussing in today's meeting, we'll be looking at the significant audit areas and risk, some of the findings that arise from our audit, some areas relating to those adjustments that were posted in the journals, and some unadjusted journal entries as well. We'll also be looking at some proposed audit opinion wordings and any matters that requiring the committee's attention for your input. As mentioned, I welcome any questions from the committee on the audit process, findings, or the proposed opinion. We also invite the committee to raise any areas they would like us to consider in future audits. With that, I'd like to bring your attention to page number 3. So in this year's audit report, we will include an emphasis of matter, and this is in relation to the duplicate assets that were found during the year. A total value of 2 million was discovered during the year, which is relating to some duplicate assets, and we have actually corrected the comparative balance relating to that and restated those balances and disclosures. The next item that I'd like to bring to your attention is item number 3 on page number 4. In our audit, we normally look at a couple of areas. Then one of the areas is significant risk, and the next item there we will be talking about the other material balances. So in the significant risk, the reason we identify them to ensure that we perform the additional audit procedures or any other disclosures requirements on that. So the first item on the significant risk that's classified there is relating to management override of controls. In the audit, management override of controls is presumed a significant risk under the Australian Auditing Standards, ASA 240. So even when an organization such as yours As a strong internal controls, management is in a unique position to manipulate accounting records or override those established controls in order to achieve certain results in their audit financial statements. So as part of our audit, we are required to design and perform procedures to specifically respond to this risk. So our work included testing the appropriateness of journal entries and any other adjustments throughout the year, evaluating any accounting misstatements that happened during the year as well, which was one of the reasons we have that comparative balances. And we review any significant or unusual transactions, particularly those outside the normal course of business. Based on our audit procedures that was performed, we are pleased to say that there were no indications or evidence of management override of controls. And we have not noted anything other further on that. On the second significant risk, we'll be looking at grants, subsidies, and contributions. Now, this area continue to be an important revenue source for the entity because these funding streams often include specific conditions and performance obligations, and they can often involve judgment in determining when revenue should be recognized. Especially with City of Kwinana, we got about 20% of your revenue component relating to grants and subsidies. So in our testing, we particularly looked at key funding agreements, your contracts, and to ensure that these funding agreements, contracts have been recorded accordingly, especially the revenue recognition criteria. So for any unspent grants or revenues, we ensure that they are recognized as contract liability, and vice versa. For those areas where you are owed money, where you're supposed to get those funding for the performance obligations that have been accomplished, we ensure that it's being recognized as contract assets accordingly. The last significant risk that we looked at is contributed assets. Why this area is a critical focus for this city is because of the prior knowledge that we had. And I think the last 2 years, we had realized that there were some found assets which were not accounted for in a timely manner and resulted in restating the comparative balances. The good news is, in the current year, unlike prior years, we didn't have any issues with regards to found assets. However, there were some issues relating to duplicate assets, which my colleague will go through in detail later. So based on our procedures that we have performed around the contributed assets, we are pleased to say that we didn't observe any anomalies with that. So I'll just hand over to my colleague to go through the other material balances. He will be touching on key areas. Justin, over to you.
Yep, so our next section has our other material balances tested during the audit. These are areas where we have not assigned a significant risk. So I won't be going through all these areas in detail, only the balances where significant matters were resolved during the audit or where we found we had key findings or adjustments from our work performed. I'll bring your attention to the area on property, plant, equipment, and infrastructure assets. So as mentioned by Vignesh, one of the key matters that were brought up and resolved during the audit was the matter around the duplicate assets, which was identified by the city during the year, which affected the infrastructure asset balances. Given the value of these assets, this was considered a material error in accordance with the accounting standards and needed to be corrected as a prior period error. This meant that the balances relating to the previous year also had to be restated for removal of these assets. For our audit work, we performed testing of duplicate asset samples to ensure that these were appropriate for disposal. We also performed a walkthrough with the asset team of the process undertaken to identify these duplicates to ensure that the full extent of this error was picked up. Finally, we checked the disclosure made in the financial statements. So there's been an additional disclosure which will explain the reason and specific changes to the comparative balances. You can also refer to Section 6 for the adjusted errors relating to this matter and also the unadjusted errors that we've agreed will be brought forward. And of course, there will be a emphasis of matter paragraph included in our audit opinion around this restatement. I'll move on to the Banksia Park liability. So this relates to the contribution made by residents of the Banksia Park Retirement Village, and which is refunded to them upon their exit after deducting for any deferred management fees that have been accrued during their time there. For our work, we performed substantive procedures over the contributions received. We reviewed the methods and underlying data that management used when calculating the fair value movement for this liability. And we also reviewed the reasonableness of management calculation of deferred management fees and the discount rates applied. From our work performed, an audit difference was identified and adjusted for. This was in relation to the calculation of deferred management fees. If you refer to section 6, this will have a table of all our adjusted and unadjusted items during the audit, and there will be one around for the Banksia Park deferred management fees, for the overstatement of revenue and the corresponding receivable. Overall, we are satisfied with the reasonableness of the assumptions and methodologies applied by management, and we're satisfied that the balances have been appropriately disclosed in the financial statements. For our other material areas of testing across expenditure, employee costs, and revenue, there were no other key findings to report from these sections. Were there any questions around those balances tested?
I think we'll come to questions at the end, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
In that case, I'll move on to our other areas of consideration. Our main one here is the risks associated with procurement that we address as part of each engagement. For us, we have addressed the risks associated with procurement by looking at the city's processes around tenders, contract variations, and contract extensions, and ensuring that the required approvals are being obtained. As part of our substantive testing across the expenditure balances, we've also tested whether the procurement policy is being followed. From our work performed around procurement, we didn't have any issues to note. The remaining areas are in relation to the impact of key changes to accounting standards and also the change in financial management system for the city this year. And the work performed here was satisfactory, and there was nothing to report for these areas. I'll move on to the management letter findings under section 4. So the table there will include a list of the findings that were open as at the end of last year's audit, and it will detail the ones that were closed during the year and also the new management finding points that have been raised. From the financial audit side, of the 13 new points raised, if you refer to Appendix 1, so 2 of those will be for financial audit, and they relate to delays on updates of interim valuation reports and also inadequate stock take procedures around plant, equipment, and fleet assets. These were raised during our interim audit, and the recommendations have been accepted by management. So for next year's audit, we will look to revisiting and closing off these issues. The remaining findings, these have come up from the information system audit performed. For more discussion around these findings and also the information systems maturity model on section 5, I'll pass it over to Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Houston. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Happy to take questions around any of the findings, but at a high level, essentially we've closed the findings that were raised in the prior year by the contract audit firm conducting the IS audit, which is pleasing to see. However, we have raised, I believe it is 14 new findings this year, which is not unusual. Unfortunately, the methodology that we use in-house tends to be a little bit more comprehensive than the contract audit firms. The 14 findings include 1 significant finding, 9 moderates, and the remainder are minors. I'll touch on the information systems maturity model. For in-house audits that we conduct, one of the goals of the audit is to complete an assessment using the capability maturity model, which is a model that assesses the capability of the entities that we audit across 10 areas. You can see the 10 areas on page 12 of the agenda. I'll call out the benchmark for us where we would like to see the entities that we audit at is maturity level 3. For the city, we found that the city has reached that benchmark in the IT risk management area. However, the remaining areas are we have assessed at maturity level 2, which essentially means that the processes that we are looking for, the processes that we test, are there. However, we found some exceptions with those processes, which would have been raised as part of those 14 findings in the management letter. I guess, okay, that's at a very high level. That is our general computer controls management letter and the maturity model. I'm happy to take questions around either one of those at this stage. Okay. Sorry, you are on mute.
Gosh, you think I'd learn after all these years. So thank you very much, Michael. Michael, my question is around process. So you mentioned that the OAG outsourced auditor has perhaps a different criteria or emphasis last year to what you have this year. From a process point of view, next year, if you were going to be auditing the same things and we'd addressed all these issues, will it be the same criteria and emphasis that's being audited against, or do we need to anticipate that changes over time?
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a good question, and I appreciate where you're coming from. With information systems audit, look, there are changes in the threats, in the risks that the city may face over time. However, the methodology, while we make changes to our methodology, those changes are very incremental. So the test plan that we followed this year is almost identical to the test plan that we would have followed last year with other entities. Next year, it will be, look, we strive for continuity in the audit team as well. So it is most likely that I will be back next year performing the audit, and I do not expect significant changes to the test plan or the methodology at that stage. There's always some refinements to the areas that we test. However, look, it's generally a one-off event where we go from a contract audit firm to an in-house audit where there is a dramatic difference in what we raised as in the management letter.
Okay, so there's nothing that the city's team should be doing in anticipation of a changed criteria. I mean, obviously we want our controls to be as strong as they possibly can within practicable limitations, but it's really that step change that perhaps has found us with this number. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Any other questions at this stage?
Well, I guess I do have another question, if I may. It's really a question for management with respect to the responses and the target completion dates, and whether they feel there's anything in there that is beyond our ability to address in the next 9 months.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Thanks, Gay. I guess the first statement which I want to make is overall, I'm sort of quite pleased with the audit and the work that the OAG and particularly the finance team have done. I think it's shown that overall the level of control is quite good and the level of findings was quite low. Obviously, a bit of concern around the IT one, and it has been pointed out in the report around the change in approach, which is fine. You know, we've now got the OAG for a number of years going forward, so we can address that. And also a bit concerning that they weren't sort of identified in previous audits. But the focus now is to really address those IT ones as a matter of priority. The director, Doug, is working with the IT manager. We've got a plan in place to do that. We've sort of said 6 months for those ones. And then all the rest will fall within our plan, our audit plan for addressing. So I feel pretty comfortable that we'll be able to address any of the findings in that timely manner.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. I'd just like to thank Bernard for assistance during the audit. It was reasonably well organized, and appreciate the work that he and his team has put in. But if there's no other questions, I might pass you on back to Houston and Vignesh.
So I've got a question for the city. It's about a couple specific things. Is the admin password not being changed since 2022? Is that okay to ask that question now? So why wasn't it updated after staff left? And is there going to be a new protocol for changing the password in the future?
To the chair, I guess. The second question is the easy one to answer. Yes, and our response to the auditor's findings is that's already occurred. The passwords have been changed, and there is now a process. The reality is those passwords have probably been around for 3 or 4 IT managers. It's just not something that they've done in the past. At some point, it's been pointed out to us, and now it'll get corrected.
Thank you. And all the dormant accounts, when will those be disabled?
To the chair, the dormant accounts they're not dormant accounts. They're related to the ERP implementation, so the Tech One project. So we do have a large number of accounts related to that project because of the consultants working on that. And our response to the auditor is essentially that, but recognising that it's something that we do have to carefully manage. But also we've gotten to the point with the project where we can appropriately start winding those back and getting them back under the normal way we'd manage contractors. So we've responded to say there's a timely reminder of our need to make sure we've got proper oversight of that.
Thank you. And then my last question is around not requiring police clearances despite access to sensitive data. Why does management sort of reject that, and how is that risk going to be mitigated?
To the chair, it's an interesting question to come up in the IT audit because it's not really something that the IT manager or myself oversee, but I have discussed it initially with the Chief Executive Officer, and I don't think our view is changed, and that is we do have that requirement for particular roles, but it's not a general requirement across the city, and it's a lag indicator. So we haven't considered it in the past to be something that provides any additional security or comfort. But it's possibly something, now that we've had it pointed out, that we'll have another look at and then come back with a decision whether or not we make the change.
Thank you. Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, through the chair. I just had a follow-up question to the police clearance point that was raised. I understand you're saying it's a lag indicator, but there are certain other risks that can be identified upon hiring someone to go, you do not have, or you have a history of a predatory nature, or you have been corporate fraud. They are not, I believe, things that would beholden someone to a role in local government money. So I just reiterate that I see a huge concern in the early stages that potentially anyone that has our community's information should have that done at the beginning. I understand the indicator part, but I would like to add that comment, please.
Yeah, through the chair. I actually don't agree entirely with you, Councillor. Police clearances are required for specific roles, and when you look at the level of risk and the interaction with either community, children, etc., you could use that argument across every role. I could require, and I'll get the HR manager to answer. I think this is my take on it. You could take that particular approach, the comments that you've made, that we require every finance person to have a police clearance because they're dealing with large sums of money, transfer of funds. We could apply it to the HR team. I could apply it to a number of different roles. So I think you've got to look at the level of risk for each of the particular ones. It's been raised, we'll certainly have a look at it, but if it's needed, we'll certainly go down that path, but at this stage, the level of risk is low in terms of a police clearance.
Through the chair, the HR have a policy on police clearances. The policy states that any roles that deal with cash, deal with finance, are put in procurement roles, in HR roles, any people working with children are required to have a police clearance. That is then recorded in the position description for the position. When we recruit for that position, we ensure that the applicant, the successful applicant, has all the essential criteria for the position. So a police clearance, working with children checks, whatever the role requires, the position description will have it, and that's what we follow. So the policy is in place. It's as the CEO has indicated, it's for specific roles, and those roles have been identified in the policy.
I appreciate that. I just think best practice, a lot of large corporations, it is just standard that when you are bringing someone in to the organisation, and I guess my thought process is the City of Kwinana, the business that it is representing a community, and for $110 police clearance to potentially have a flag that you are unaware of historically is a risk mitigation that is quite simple to achieve. So I guess, thank you.
So through the chair, I think what I'm hearing is there's an appetite for management to review that policy, and that it be considered by this committee with respect to its appropriateness.
Through the chair, the ERT are actually undertaking shortly some risk workshops. We were going through looking at it. We can certainly put it on that, but as I keep coming back to, you've got to look at the level of risk in terms of those specific roles, but we'll certainly have a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had some questions in relation to the financial report notes, either for the management or for the auditors. more a technical one. I saw that they are being disposal of the assets, but I didn't see any movement from the revaluation reserves to the retained earnings. Is any particular reason as to why?
Thank you. Good question. I think we're coming to that item number 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want, I can answer your question through the items there. So in item number 6, we have actually the adjusted and unadjusted audit differences. So the adjusted audit differences is where we have listed there. There are about, I think, 4 adjusted audit differences and 4 unadjusted audit differences. I think a good question that you have raised and good identification as well is that revaluation reserve you're talking about, it's about 800,000. And from the audit perspective, it's considered immaterial. And therefore, we have actually reported that as an uncorrected audit adjustments.
Right.
So as reflected on page number 13, item number 6. So that 800,000 is a knockoff effect because they have actually adjusted everything through the retained earnings. It's just that it was not reclassified to the revaluation surplus. So what happened, what's the reason that it was not reclassified back to the revaluation surplus? Because it was not efficient in terms of the audit and also for the staff. It's just going to take additional hours for the city staff as well in terms of trying to pass through that journal. I thought with an efficient manner, I think we have left it as an unadjusted error.
Wouldn't that have been just a passing of a journal entry, moving it from the retained earnings to the, from the revaluation reserve to the retained earnings?
Correct, yeah. But the threshold, was within our within our threshold to keep it as an unadjusted error, and that's the reason. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. Is that on? No. Okay. Recognition policy of the capital grants. I saw that 14 million grants came in during the year, and all of that has gone into the income. I looked at the recognition policy for the capital grants, and it had, the income recognition is based on the completion of the contracts. So it almost appears that all the monies received were recognized as income. Does that mean that 100% of the monies received are in respect of contracts and 100% contracts got completed?
So I think the majority of that balance will be from the developer contributed assets. So those were completed and passed to the city, and on their end they recognise the revenue side.
Yeah, but would that mean that the contracts got completed? So the monies got received this year and the contracts got completed this year? No? Oh, sorry.
You're right. He's going to take this one off.
So when the developer contributed asset is completed, it's passed to the city, and they will recognise the asset on their balances and the corresponding revenue. If that makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense to me.
Sorry, if you don't mind, are you referring to any particular contracts?
No, the 14.95 million grant income that is reflected in the P&L account.
So you're referring to the financial statement?
Yes, please. Capital grants, subsidies, and contributions, 2A.
I think Venetia can answer that question for you.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Through the chair, the question you are asking is whether those contracts have been met and and can we recognize?
Exactly.
Yes, they have, because they have been handed over to the city. These are assets that the developer has been created for us, created and handed over to the city. So they have met all those contractual liabilities to be our assets, and therefore we recognize the income.
Right.
Yes, to answer your question, it's yes.
All right, thank you.
They have met that.
Thank you. The next one was in relation to the debts. The debts have almost doubled, but I didn't see any provision or, do you provide for any doubtful or any bad debts? And is there a policy at all for?
Predominantly, the debt is rates debts, and these are secured debt, because when they sell those property, we recover our money at that stage. So it's secured in that aspect.
And
so
we don't have a
so it's
policy.
limited need for provisions on that.
Okay, all right, thank you. In page annual report, in the page I'm looking at, what page is this? It just got the financial performance, page 28. I think the chart is not correct. I think we just need to get the right column, but it's more page number 28.
Financial statement?
Yeah, financial performance in the annual report.
Oh, in the annual report.
Adoption of the
Are we
annual
on the
report.
Are we on the accounts or the report?
We are not on the annual report as yet. Annual report,
Which attachment number is that?
page number 28. Oh, attachment, what is that, 9.2.5?
Yeah, that's
Part 1, community. Page number 28.
the annual of the community annual report.
Yeah, 9.2.5, part 1.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Page 135, sorry. Yeah. Yes, please. Financial performance. So, because I look at it, the actual income is more than the budget. Why did it get reflected as a negative figure, as if there's a drop in the income? It's shown as negative, so I was thinking, why is it negative? Is it in relation to the previous year, or comparison is with the budget?
Through the chair, could this be put up on the screen, please? The page we're referring to, as we are jumping around a little. It's a bit hard to follow.
Through the chair, Gay, unfortunately, we've got an issue with our system that we can't split it.
Okay.
Page
well,
119 of the report. It says 135 on the actual attachment, but it's actually
okay.
119.
I've got it. I've got it now. 135. Yep.
So actual income is more than the budgeted, so it should be favorable variance, but it's being shown as a negative, so I was thinking, why is it a negative? So it's more of getting it right, I think. Yes. I think it's the same with operating expenditure as well. The actual expenditure is more than the budget, so that should be negative. So I think they've reversed the positive and the negative signs, just to get it right, because the annual report really goes out, so I just wanted to get it. Yeah, that's okay.
It's just the signage, but yeah, we can look at that if it can reflect better. But I think it's fine. It's fine. It's just how we reflect our positives and our negatives. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm looking at it because I take it to be the reverse of what you're seeing.
Exactly.
Because it's a positive, it's green.
The colors, they've got it right. I think it's the signage from positive to negative. Because when the income increases, it's got to be a positive because the actual income is more than the budgeted.
So you're just looking at the negative 8971.
Yeah, and even the numbers down below are reversed actually.
Yeah.
That should be negative.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, we can tweak that.
I mean, it's more like a typo, but then, it's an annual report, so that's it. I mean, those are the questions really I have. Thank you. Not really. Thank you.
Okay, Barry, do you guys have any more questions for the auditors?
No.
Thank you.
No,
Through the
I'm
chair,
all good.
can I
Thank you, Chair.
continue with the presentation? Thank you. So, as mentioned earlier, I think we have listed all the adjusted and unadjusted audit differences there. The unadjusted audit differences are listed there in accordance with the Australian auditing standards. We need to let those charged with governance to let you know that these are the unadjusted audit differences which are within our threshold, and we're willing to levy it as an uncorrected statements, which will also be reflected on your management representation letter. And then I'd like to bring you to item number 8, which is the variations to the indicative audit fee. I'm sure this is the much awaited item in the agenda. So in this year, we have an additional fee of $9,000 to $720. Look, the reason we have these additional fees is because of some of the additional work that was performed beyond our scope of the audit that we have planned for. And I think namely there were 4 items. One was the correction of the prior year error. And there was some additional work that was performed on the review of the financial statement disclosures. There was a correction of accounting estimates relating to the bank share park, which my colleague explained when he was going through the material areas. And the last one was as a result of the assessment on the transition of rates and accounts receivable module from the authority to one council. 9720, that dollar value there, that was after our actual cost that was actually considered. So that what we are seeing there is actually a discounted dollar value there. Item number 9, we will be assessing the progress of the matters we have raised in 24-25 audit as appropriate in the coming years. I think one area that I like to take this opportunity, and I like to both the management and the committee, just want the city to be careful of the assets we are identifying. I think we're having a comparative restatement for the 3rd time. And it's not a good reflection if we are going to have this occurring on a repetitive manner for the next year as well. So it's strongly recommended, and just want the committee and the management to have an oversight on that area. The remaining of the documents is relating some appendix. For the first appendix, as I mentioned, it's just walking you through the management letters for the information system and the financial audit. I understand there was some 14 management letter issues for IS audit, but on the hindsight, for the financial audit, there were 2 audit matters that will be raised, and that was only for the interim. It was quite remarkable. There was no final management letter that was issued around the controls. So well done on that. Appendix 2, which lists the key changes to accounting standards. There were no significant areas that can impact the city at this stage, but we will be in touch if something is going to pop up in the landscape. With that, before I close off this meeting, I'm happy to take the question from the chair or from the floor. Thank you.
Okay, Barry, do you have any questions?
Yeah, no, nothing from me, Chair. Thank you.
Nothing from me.
No further questions from the committee?
Thank you, Chair. If there are no further questions, I'd like to once again thank the management and Vanicia's team for remarkable achievement in this financial audit, given it was the first year that OAG have taken over. Of course, I think we went on a bit intense as well in terms of trying to achieve the timeline. That's one other challenge we had, and of course the comparative balance restatement. So there was several challenges, and I think it was dealt very well by the management team. Well done on that. Houston, you got any words to add on?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Vignesh has said. Wanted to thank the Kwinana team, especially Venetia, Doug, and their staff for their cooperation throughout the audit. they were really responsive to our requests and in resolving any matters that came up, which allowed us to reach this stage today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the recommendation is that the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, one, receive and provide comment on the following. A, audited annual financial statements, Part 2 annual report for the year 30 June 2025 is detailed at amended attachment 9.2.1. B, in the independent auditor's closing report and management letters, financial audit and information technology, IT, general control audit, at attachments 9.2.2, 9.2.3, and 9.2.4. C, the management representation letter for the year ended 30 June 2025 at attachment 9.2.5. D, recommend that the annual report 2024-2025, Part 1, Community, as detailed at attachment 9.2.6, and Part 2, Annual Financial Report at attachment 9.2.1 be adopted by Council. E, note that public notice of the annual report is to be given in accordance with Section 5.55 of the Local Government Act 1995. 2, note in accordance with Section 5.27 of the Local Government Act 1995, the Electors' General Meeting be held on the 11th of February 2026, commencing at 5 p.m. Note that attachment 9.2.1 has been amended to reflect the following changes as requested by the signing officer of the OAG. Note 8, included a row before the correction of error as the balance at 1 July 2023, and then a line including the error. Note 10, C, disclose the total lease income for the city-owned facility instead of only Callistaman Court. Thank you. Note 26, the column for 2025 actual updated to 2024 actual restated, and include a footnote reference to note 32. Note 27, actual rates revenue amended to tie up the calculated amount and the interim rates adjusted accordingly. Goodness gracious. Thanks, Peter. Note 32, remove the wordings. I don't need to read that? Okay. Is that it? Okay, can I get somebody to move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Sargent.
Yeah.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Winmore. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's moved.
Aye.
So now we're going to go back up.
So now we'll go back up to 8.1.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. So now we're going to go back up to 8.1. And the recommendation as the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee note and provide comment where appropriate on the City of Kwinana WHS statistical data report detailed in attachment 8.1.1. Do we have any questions?
No questions, Chair.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, through the chair. I was just wondering if the city could speak a little bit more regarding the increase to the injury statistics in September and October, please.
Through the chair, the graphical representation of the data is due to the time frame that we took the data. So it was the data for August 2025 is only 1 day because of the previous Audit and Risk Committee meeting went up to there. So that is not all of August data, it's all of August data for this particular report. Does that make sense?
That gives me some clarity.
Okay, yeah.
It's a very large jump in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If we have no other questions, can we get somebody to move that, please? Councillor Sargent,
I'm happy. I'll second it through the chair.
all those in favour?
Aye.
Eight point two, risk management report. The recommendation is that the Audit, Risk, and Improvement Committee note and provide comment where appropriate on the City of Kwinana Organizational Risk Register, Strategic Risks at attachment 8.2.1. Do we have any questions? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you. Through the chair. On the attachments, page 21, SR 30, can the city please speak to the risk action title, Crisis Management Testing and Training, that's saying 45% complete with an end date of the 30th of the 6th, 25?
Through the chair, yes. SR30 relates to business continuity plan of the city, which was updated approximately 12 months ago. So the next review date is probably a little bit long in the tooth. We tried to align it when the next major review of that plan is scheduled. Teams have their own relevant plans relating to how they're going to function, which sit alongside that primary document. So that, for example, that was each team was asked with the renovations occurring and the disjointed nature of our work arrangements at the moment to update those plans. So those plans that sit with each individual team are updated on a much more frequent basis. But just referring to this 2028 timeframe, as I mentioned, that relates to the next major review of the overarching plan that covers the entire city. Perhaps a little bit long in the tooth, but we'll review whether that needs to be tightened. Yep.
Through the chair. In regards to testing and training, there was some desktop exercising that was done. So that's complete. So it's actually not 45% complete, it's actually fully complete. So when the BCP came through audit and risk, there was some exercising and testing done on it.
If there's no other questions, can somebody move that way?
I'll move.
I'll second. Kate can move. I feel I'm in the room, so I'm putting my hand up first.
The Gay's moved and Councillor Sargent second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay. 8.3, Audit Action Log Progress Report. The recommendation is that the Audit, Risk, and Improvement Committee note the status of audit actions as detailed in the City of Kwinana audit log provided at attachment 8.3.1. Are there any questions? If there's no questions, can I get somebody to move that way? Do you have a question?
Happy to move that way.
Ashwin? No question? Ashwin's mover, seconder, please. Councillor Sargent. All those in favor?
Aye.
8.4, update on council policy review. And the recommendation is that the Audit, Risk, and Improvement Committee, 1, note the city's progress towards a review of all council policies as detailed at attachment 8.4.1, and outstanding local planning policies as detailed at attachment 8.4.2, and 2, endorse the move to annual reporting of the status of council policies. Are there any questions?
I have one question. The rationale of moving to annual, could you please elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, through the chair. So you'll recall when this was, when we first raised it, we had a number of outstanding policies, and we also had a number of policies. Since then, the governance team have done an outstanding job along with the managers in reviewing all those policies, and so they're now pretty much on track with it. So just in terms of the amount of work in terms of preparing this report, and given the low level of risk that we now have with this, and that we now have quite good systems in place for ensuring that the policies are reviewed in a timely manner, the numbers of outstanding are quite low, we feel quite comfortable that an annual review of this is more than sufficient.
Yeah, I guess my only concern is that if it moves to annual, then you can find that there's a great big wave of policy reviews just before the annual reporting, and therefore it's easy to get behind again. So be really looking for assurance that there is a process in place and management oversight of the regular reviews so that we don't get behind again.
Yeah, it's a good point through the chair. There's a couple of things. First off, a number of our policies are between 3 and 5 years in terms of review dates. So now that we've got them in place, it's going to be sort of 3 years before they will fall behind. We also have process where through the system now it's reported through to ELT, so ELT tracks it and it's on our senior management team agenda, and it's on Attain, and that comes to the senior management team about every quarter for them to review. So the governance manager actually does it. So there's a lot of visibility internally, so there's good process behind it.
Thank you.
Yep. Just in relation
Just
to
a quick question.
Sorry.
Sorry, Barry, Ashwin's got a question, then we'll come to you.
Yeah. For a start, for someone coming new to the council first time, just the sheer number of policies, 98 policies, appeared too much to me. I just wanted to understand the logic of having so many policies for a start, and could it be because many of the procedures are under the guise of a policy? Is that the reason? Just wanted to understand that.
Through the chair, welcome to local government. Probably the best person to answer that is our lawyer, as to the reason why you have a policy as opposed, because we also, what you're seeing are council policies. We also have a number of internal policies as well. So there's a lot of policies, but as I said, welcome to local government.
Through the chair, yeah, I'll just point out that when I started here, a bit over 5 years ago, we had 120 policies. So we've covered off the top of my head around 50 in that time. So it's certainly something we're aware of, and we're working actively at going through all of our policies, determining whether they're appropriate and whether actually we need them in place. So I feel like, although it may seem that it's a large number at this point in time, the policies that we do have are a much better reflection of what our actual needs are here at the city.
Thank you for that. On the report, the first page, the 8.4, page 15 of the agenda, it says the following policies have been reviewed and adopted by the council, and one of the, in that list is recognition and depreciation of assets. And I was just trying to understand, why do we need separately a policy just for recognition and depreciation of the assets? Question is, could it be fitted broadly under the accounting policy, so to speak? Because it forms part of the notes to the accounts anyway, where we disclose note 1 to the financial statements, where we disclose our accounting policy. So, I mean, again, this is a case of, having 98 policy. Could this form under a broader accounting policy for efficiency?
Through the chair, if I recall on this particular one, it was because this was one that the auditors actually required to be as a separate policy.
Okay. So is there a separate asset management or a policy? I mean, are there many policies in relation to assets is what I wanted to understand.
No, through the chair, depreciation is one element of this policy, but there's a whole lot of other criteria there, how you recognize assets, the developer contributed assets. So there's a whole lot of other aspects of it. We don't have a financial policy on its own, but we have these policies that all combined makes up the financial policies.
Yeah. So wouldn't it be better to have one financial or an accounting policy which captures all policies in relation to accounting?
Then we'll have a very long policy. I think it's more easier to manage it this way, so that when there's any changes, then we can easily change that particular policy.
That's very standard within local government.
Yeah.
As the CFO is saying, what occurs is, as the auditors are going through, they'll pick up some change in process, which then requires a change in the policy. If you were to change the whole policy, it then becomes quite cumbersome in terms of the process.
Thank you.
And
for
it
that.
also makes it easier to be able to direct people to that particular area.
Yeah, because we capture all the accounting. So even in relation to the recognition and measurement, what is that recognition and depreciation of the asset? It's basically an accounting policy. It forms part of the note 1 so all the accounting policies are anyway there in note 1. So in note 1, we are capturing the whole of the accounting policy, which concerns with how we recognize the assets, how we recognize the income, how do we recognize our debts, our liabilities, everything. So, something to ponder, but again, when I looked at the number of policies and then looked at just the recognition and depreciation of assets, it was giving me indicators. Do we have too many of those accounting policies? But again, you can think about it, but yeah.
Through the chair, noted, but I think the note 1 is very simplified. It's at a very high level, whereas these policies are much more detailed and what will guide the team and guide the staff in order to ensure consistency of treatment.
Thank you.
But yeah,
I
noted.
wonder if through the chair, if this matter could be picked up as part of the induction of the new member of the committee.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea, again.
Yeah, thank you. That's about it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on Gay's question in relation to the annual review, albeit that it's going to be policy where you look at it annually. If there are any legislative changes or changes through reform, will that come back to this committee for consideration for them to be part of normal course, for them to be accepted and adopted?
Through the chair, I mean, what we're proposing isn't that policies won't come to this committee if it's a matter that could benefit from the committee's guidance, but what we're suggesting is the bulk reporting of the current status of all policies only occur every year. As the CEO alluded to, we're in a pretty good position with the review of all of our policies. We've only currently got one council policy that is, which is currently overdue. So any report for the foreseeable future is simply going to say that all of our policies are up to date. With the extension of review timeframes, 1 year, in our view, reporting seems appropriate. But as I alluded to, if a policy would benefit from the guidance of this committee in between reporting of our policies in bulk, we can certainly bring those policies as appropriate to the committee.
Yeah, and including any new policies, I think was the question. Yep.
Okay, if there's no more questions, can I get somebody to move that way, please?
I'm happy to move that recommendation.
Happy to second.
Eight point five, internal audit plan, 2025, 2026 to 2028, 2029. That's okay. The recommendation is that the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, 1, endorse the city's new internal audit plan, 2025, 2026 to 2028, 2029, and 2, authorize the city to engage an internal auditor for the remainder of the 2025-2026 financial year, with the option to extend until such time of the completion of the internal audit plan, 2025, 2026 to 2028, 2029. Are there any questions? Councillor Sargent.
Can the city speak to having an internal auditor? I know we've had discussions before about funding and the need for audits versus the ability to pay for audits, to see that we have 4 planned each financial year, I think is fantastic. But are we in a comfortable financial position and capability position to have an internal auditor achieve this, or will we get back to we're 2 years behind on this audit because of the funds, and then that slows the whole process going forwards?
Okay, I'm not quite sure how to answer this one. It's not about the money. Wasn't that us saying? Yes. So internal audit has never been about the funds. It's been about being able to get an internal auditor. So the funding has not been an issue. So we've always made provision within our budgets for it. The difficulty has been securing an internal auditor. We tried to get an internal auditor within staff, and that wasn't achievable. We tried a shared service type arrangement. It was problematic and didn't really work and achieve the benefits. So what's been proposed is going back to probably what is the best structure at this point in time to deliver this plan. We've got funds within the budget to do it. And what's been put forward are the areas where we have identified the areas of opportunity for oversight, so that those can then be assessed and come back, taking into account that a number of areas get audited quite in depth through the OAG. So we're sort of after the guidance from the committee if they're comfortable with those areas, or if there are any other particular areas to be focused on. But in terms of the budget, it's not about the money.
I just have one question. The 2026-27 plan is for building services and engineering services to be done in the same year. I'm just wondering whether that's the best mix or whether one of them could be brought forward to the 25-26 year.
Through the chair, and I'll get Doug and then potentially Greg to do it. The thing to remember with building service and engineering services, they sit within completely different areas. So one's a regulatory function, and then which is the building services. Then the engineering services, yes, it has some regulatory function as well in terms of input into subdivision planning. But a lot of it sits within the infrastructure area for assets, which is, so they have a different focus in terms of their work output.
Okay, that answers my question. It was a lack of understanding on my part.
Okay, does that clarify it?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gay.
Councillor Sargi had a follow-up question.
Thank you. My apologies for not turning on my mic for those at home. Do you feel that with an internal auditor that the city will be confident to achieve 4 audits in a financial year period?
Through the chair, yeah. This is the rough time frame we had under our previous internal audit plans here at the city, and I'm confident if we get the right auditor through an RFQ process that this is certainly achievable. One audit area a quarter. We'll be working with them to make sure that can occur effectively. Yep.
Through the chair, look, I'm very supportive of this recommendation. I think it will get the audit plan back on track.
Ashwin, you had a question.
The appointment of the internal auditor, do we have just one firm or is there a panel or something that we have, or do we go on just audit to audit proposal basis?
There is a wider panel, and we'll certainly be approaching them, but we'll be doing a request for quotation process to determine the most qualified and cost-effective firm.
Through the chair, when we've done this previously, what we also do too is I've had discussions with the chair, Gay, just once we're getting to the final stages of selecting, just to get their feedback as well.
Next one is just to, for the comfort of the committee, just to looking at the 4 audits that we have mandated for this year. I know you did say that money is not an issue, but considering the 4, I'm not asking for the estimate, just to know that we'll have enough budget considering the 4 audits, because sometimes it's the kind of audit, some audits are cheap, some audits are quite expensive. We will have adequate budget to,
Yeah, through the chair. There's actually 3 in the first year. Given all the activity happening around the city at this point in time, but in terms of budgeting, obviously it's not an open checkbook for an auditor. The more money you give them, the deeper they'll go, and it can become a very, very costly exercise from previous experience. So we'll be working with them. The internal audit plan towards the back includes indicative areas, and those are just to guide the auditor on some possible areas that they could look at, but we'll be working with them to make sure that we look at the key areas that, it's a cost-effective audit and we're going to achieve the outcome that we're looking for, meaningful results here at the city. Some practical advice on improvements we can make. But as I said, not an open checkbook. We'll be trying to find someone with suitable experience that can do this in a cost-effective way.
I think another point is that the Audit and Risk Committee does have an opportunity to have input into the scope of the audit to make sure they're happy with that scope.
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, can we have somebody move that way, please?
I'm happy to move.
Seconder, Ashwin, the seconder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 8.6, Development Contributions Annual Status Report 2024-2025. That the Audit, Risk, and Improvement Committee note the Development Contribution Plans Annual Status Report fiscal year 2024-2025, attachment 8.6.1. Are there any questions?
No question.
Can I get somebody to move that way, please? Councillor Sargent, can I get a seconder? Ashwin, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the late business we brought forward. Are there any answers to questions which were taken on notice? Neil?
No.
Meeting closed, 6:59. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds.